Hello, YouTube. It's been one long roller coaster ride of a week, so I figured I'd sit down and do some painting. And this is my second installment of my new series, Creative Habit, where I pretty much sit down and draw or paint in my sketchbook, where I pretty much talk about my mind space regarding arts and other relevant topics. So if you want to follow along or sit down and draw with me, then be my guest. Or if you just want to chill and have me in the background, that's also cool as well. But yeah, I want this series to be more mellow and less edited like my other videos. And I want these videos to be a space where I can experiment with my art style and not really worry about the results. Today, for instance, I was heavily inspired by Studio Ghibli after the whole AI situation. So naturally, I decided to do some landscape studies here. And I couldn't find my masking tape that I normally use when I do paintings like this, so I kind of just winged it. I didn't really want to stop the recording to go get some, so I just decided to start painting anyways. Thankfully, this watercolor sketchbook I got from Five Below doesn't really buckle too much when I add water or paint. What sets this paper apart from other watercolor sketchbooks that I use is that it contains cotton, which doesn't shrink or warp like other papers do. Still though, since I didn't use masking tape, I didn't exactly get clean lines when I was painting these, so bear with me. It had been a while since I did a proper landscape study. The last one I did was that Bob Ross painting video I did on stream. So sitting down and doing this was actually quite nice. I've been trying to learn different things about landscapes and backgrounds since I am working on my own Webtoons series. And the whole concept of the Webtoons series is that it's based in different locations and places, so yeah, learning how to draw backgrounds and stuff is something that I definitely need to study more. But it's also been a while since I've done a study of Ghibli art, which I used to do quite a bit in my old Instagram/Tumblr days. Well, I don't really want to spend this video talking about AI art again. I've already made a ton of videos talking about it. My stance on the whole issue is pretty much the same as my last video, not that I think that would change. The main difference between someone who writes prompts for generative AI versus an actual artist is effort. And more likely than not, people who are posting those types of images are looking to get reactions from actual artists regarding the topic. Said artists most likely will get angry at the use of generative AI. Then the person who posted that image will feel justified in using generative AI to make art because they may or may not already have preconceived notions about artists. Those in favor of generative AI say that it's making art more accessible, but that's not true. This trend is basically just rage bait. And more likely than not, they'll probably move on when there's another new shiny toy to play with. Shouldn't really let angry people on Twitter dictate whether or not you should be pursuing art or not. But that's more or less just my opinion on the subject. And unless something insane happens, I don't really want to talk about this topic again. I don't necessarily mind talking about art drama, as it is important to talk about the platforms and stuff that we use. But I don't want my channel to just be a place of negativity. So I think finding the balance is what I'm going to be going for the foreseeable future. And I guess related to that too is the whole topic of content creation to begin with. It's almost been about a year since I actually posted my first serious YouTube video, and ever since then my channel has grown quite fast, considering the fact that I mainly do art. I know art channels don't always grow super fast on YouTube. So I of course want to thank everyone who has been supporting me in this past year or so. And if it wasn't really for my mods and my friends, I never really would have thought that I ever would get this far. I definitely don't take any of you guys' support for granted. And I love making this channel. I don't really regret a thing that I did, even though some of my videos didn't always do the best. I wouldn't change a thing for the world. My only main regret is not being able to post more consistently as I would like. And that's been kind of the main conflict in my mind regarding posting and content creation and streaming lately. Because I've talked about this as well on stream, but not really in a video format. Because as I've said, I like making videos, I like streaming, but as someone who also works a full-time job, I don't always have the time to do both. And thinking about how to prioritize my time so that I can keep growing on YouTube has been something that I've been struggling with these past few months. Because obviously the best way to grow on YouTube is being consistent, and I know I haven't exactly been that for the past few months. There was a time where I was posting something every week, but I low-key sort of fell off. And I'm not really saying this to throw a pity party, but that's just kind of the state of where my channel is right now. Because like filming art content is time consuming. More often than not, more time consuming than actually doing the art itself. And I don't regret a thing. I absolutely love starting this channel. It's giving me something to actually work towards. And for me, that's really all I need to stop myself from procrastinating. But like low-key, if you've been drawing for a while, you know that sometimes things just don't always work out. Both on the art aspect, but as well as the filming aspect. I can't tell y'all how many ideas I had to scrap for videos because my footage didn't come out correct. And like it's all a huge learning process. Apart from like shorter TikToks, I never really took the time to edit full-length videos before. And no matter where this channel takes me as far as my own career or life in general, I definitely won't take those skills that I learned for granted either. I want to try to get back to posting something every week. Ideally, I would like to post something twice a week. But trying to work more on videos also comes at a cost of me streaming. And like I also like streaming, and that's also really fun to do. But realistically, it does take away from my time with editing my videos, so that also kind of hurts my consistency. If I could film videos while I was live on stream, that would make the process a lot easier. I've been constantly thinking of ways to make my channel more interactive, because I do like the community aspect of YouTube and Twitch and a lot of other platforms. I've been talking with my friends about wanting to do more collab content, and I would also like critique from you guys as well as what videos you want to see me work on. Because I'm always down for ideas on what to do or what direction to take this channel. I want this to be a place where you can learn, but I also want it to be a place where you can have fun and goof off. Because as a person and as an artist, I don't exactly like taking myself too seriously. But I also want to deliver consistent content that's actually fun to watch. And that was part of the reason why I came up with the Creative Habits series anyways. Because these videos do take a lot less time for me to edit, but they're also pretty fun to talk about different things as well. Because there's always something going on in the art community or just in general. And having a place to sound off on my ideas that didn't actually make it to a video is also kinda nice. That being said, while I do like to stream and I do want to do co-op streams with Claw and Teapot, I wouldn't also say that I do want to focus a bit more on YouTube, because I see that as being more sustainable than Twitch. Like if the choice is between posting more videos on YouTube or doing more streams, I think I'd rather focus on YouTube. Like I'm not gonna abandon Twitch, I'm still probably gonna stream like 2 to 3 times a week. But like I feel like now is the time to push on YouTube if I want to continue growing. And by being more consistent on YouTube, I think my Twitch as well will benefit from this. So that's more or less my mind space about that and what's been going on in my head for the past few weeks regarding streaming and content creation as well. That being said, of course, if you guys have ideas, then let me know down in the comments. I am very interested in your guys' input on what directions this channel should go in. And I want to post more videos talking about the things that excite me, and that is my series that I'm working on. So I know for sure that those are probably the type of videos that I'm going to be working on for the next few weeks. Because I really want to get my ideas out there, and I'm actually really excited to do it. So if you're into that, then don't hesitate to like this video as well as subscribe. And I'll also likely have the links to my other socials down in this description as well. I do want my streams and videos to be more interactive, and I know that's going to take some time to get there, but I'm excited for the journey, and I want to keep going as long as I can. Like, I know I don't have the fastest setup or the most exciting video ideas, but this is something that I've really been working on a lot this past year, and I want to continue as much as possible. So again, thank you for the support while I try to be more consistent. Also, don't be surprised if I do more collaborative content in the near future, because that's something we've been talking about. And I'll likely be making an announcement on my socials regarding that. You know, it's kind of funny, in the whole research that I've done coming up with my own Webtoons series, I fell into the rabbit hole of cryptids and paranormal urban legend stuff. And low-key, some of the stories that I've been learning and reading about has actually been pretty entertaining. And I think part of being a good storyteller or being a good artist in general is being able to just take in all of the stuff that you see. And like that doesn't just include art, that can also include movies, shows, games, reading, writing, even doing other forms of crafts can actually improve your own artwork. If getting through an art book might be a bit difficult for you, just following along with your favorite animated series can teach you a lot about doing art, whether that's composition, color palettes, basic animation, all those sorts. Because you never know what might influence your artwork. It might be something that you discover that's completely new, or something that you haven't picked up in quite a long time. This whole paranormal, supernatural type thing has had me watching the BuzzFeed Unsolved series again. A series that I used to be obsessed with in high school, so it's been nice to reconnect with something that I used to enjoy quite a bit. I want to try to have a more horror slash edgy look to my art style, so I've been trying to incorporate that lately. Although that's kind of counterintuitive to the colorful backgrounds that I'm drawing here. I've also been taking it back and looking at Shin Megami Tensei art as well as Junji Ito art. Because I want my own Webtoon series to be sort of creepy, but I also don't want it to be too gory. So finding a balance in that has also been a little bit difficult, but it's been a lot of fun. And my goal for one of my upcoming videos slash live streams is to compile all the things that I found and incorporate it to my own original characters. I would like to make an anthology of both of my main characters, so I've been kind of focused on that lately. Although for the past couple days I did get a bit stuck, so I took a break and decided to work on this instead. Though me just talking about these ideas right now is making me want to write these characters even more. So stay tuned for that live stream slash video. I'm not sure if I want to stream this or if I want to make it a video, but regardless, I'll likely make posts about that. If you've been following my streams, I've been working out the designs for both Lucille and my other character Kyoko. But I already started compiling some ideas about both characters that I want to incorporate in my series. So I'm definitely excited to share that in the near future. So if you're interested, then stay tuned for that. And the most interesting part about working through all of this, because I never really actually made a comic series for my characters like this before, is letting go of the fear of my characters or thinking that their stories aren't interesting enough to tell people. Not letting fear and perfectionism stop me from expressing the things that I enjoy. And it's because of this is why I'm actually really enjoying the process of coming up with these characters and designs and stories, and why I've stuck with it for so long. If you've been following me, you likely know that I came up with this idea of the bookkeeper's daughter because of a sponsor I took last year where I had to review some inks. And from there, it pretty much blossomed into its own story. And I developed a couple new characters based off of that. So unironically, it is content creation that came up with this story to begin with. This was back when I was mainly only posting videos on TikTok. And I was low-key surprised to have an actual brand reach out to me telling me that they wanted to see me use their products. I think I had not quite 2,000 followers on TikTok at the time, but I said it in a previous video and I'm saying it again, if it weren't for that, I probably never would have thought that I could take content creation a bit more seriously. Because you never know when an opportunity might present itself. And being open to different ideas and possibilities is something that I think a lot of people lack these days. And partly because of that is because of a bunch of negativity that's out there these days. I mean, I'm still new when it comes to recording videos and voiceovers and all that, but I didn't let that stop me from creating my channel. And every video, I learned something new that I can take with me to my next video. And it helped in other ways too. I talked about that on stream as well, about how it helped me be more confident when it comes to speaking. Because I'm someone who definitely gets scatterbrained rather easily sometimes. But I do think that this channel does help me be more confident when it comes to expressing myself. So overall, 10 out of 10 learning experience. I'm definitely interested in what this channel will teach me moving forward, both in my career and in my real life. And yeah, I'm excited to share my projects with you guys. It would mean a lot. Especially in a world where creativity is being cracked down and originality isn't seen as, special anymore. Having the space to adequately express yourself is something that's lacking these days. Which goes into what I've also been saying about how creativity isn't really taught these days. And sometimes I get it, there's a time and place to be competitive, but not all the time. It's not always about how fast you do something, it's actually enjoying the process of doing it. I don't paint landscapes very much these days, but I still have fun doing it. And sometimes that's all you really need to do to get started on a project. I think for a while before I started my channel, I was giving myself permission to pursue art. Because ultimately back then I didn't really think it would amount to much. And obviously I still don't know everything that it is to know about art, but I enjoy the process too much to just stop. And I get to share my creations with you guys, so hey, that's pretty worth in my opinion. I guess the point of me bringing this up is that you don't need to necessarily wait for permission to work on something that you enjoy. And this isn't mutually exclusive to art either. It could be for any creative pursuit that you might have. Letting go of that perfectionist drive that I used to have and actually enjoying the process made me a better artist. And it did wonders for my mental health too. That said, I still have my moments, and it's definitely not a linear process, but overall I do think I'm in a better spot for it. As long as my mind's intact, I don't ever see myself stop creating and stop making art, because I love it too much. And while I definitely am learning to appreciate digital art, it still doesn't always get as much satisfaction as it does when I open my palette and my sketchbook and start painting. I mean, sure, it's messy, but sometimes art requires you to get messy, so I definitely enjoy the process. I'm starting to even appreciate the cleanup involved as well. That said, I did struggle with this piece quite a bit because I'm using my old Himi gouache palette. I had this palette for over 5 years at this point, but the paints are still good, and yeah, I should have been more prepared and actually wet them before I started. I had already pre-wet these from the last time that I used them on my video, but I guess they dried out again. I don't know if it was because they were old or they've been sitting, but yeah, some of the colors just weren't as vibrant as they once were. So I might be thinking about getting a new set of these eventually. Also, when I do a gouache painting, I usually do an underpainting of watercolors underneath to establish my values and colors. I don't really like to just start off straight with gouache, even though you can do that. I just don't think that the colors look as well if I don't do an underpainting first. I have a love-hate relationship with gouache. Sometimes I love it, especially when I'm getting certain effects, but other times it's kind of unpredictable. Maybe I need to do some more gouache studies to get used to it again. Ironically, I actually think that using gouache is more difficult than watercolors a lot of the time. But since Ghibli backgrounds do tend to be quite vibrant and, I guess, opaque, I decided to use gouache here. As far as I understand, I think Miyazaki has a custom gouache palette that I would love to try someday. And I also have my Holbeins that I haven't really been using much, so maybe once I get back into practice with my gouache, I'll switch over to those to see the difference. Learning digital art is fun, but traditional art will always be my favorite. Because in a world with a bunch of digital stuff, it's nice to feel the paint and the paper and actually see them do their thing together. I might also be getting some new art supplies that I might want to try either on stream or in part of a video. Because it's been a while since I treated myself to new art supplies. So if you're into that, then stay tuned, and I might actually do reviews on supplies that I've had for many years because I think I can give my whole thoughts about them. So if you're interested in that, then don't hesitate to like and subscribe because I want to do more traditional art videos. I think I got it to where my setup doesn't blow up every time I try to record something. I want to have it where I can actually do those mini craft kits on stream for every once in a while. I actually think that could be quite fun. That was something I was thinking about doing to make stream more interactive for you guys. Now, I'm not sure if I want my reviews to be a separate series or if I want that to be part of my Creative Habits series, but yeah, those are definitely things that I've been thinking about. Because art is not just the visual aspect, although it's quite important. There's also the scientific part of art that I also want to talk about a bit more. So yeah, that could be fun to do on stream or just in video format, so again, stay tuned for that. I was also thinking of having a little mini series of me trying different art supplies from like Dollar Tree or Family Dollar or just random dollar stores to reinforce the idea that you don't really need expensive art supplies to make art. I already did a video based on Five Below art supplies, so I want to try other dollar stores as well. Again, I think it'd be fun to sit down and actually work with art supplies that have some limits, because my creative process seems to work the best in those circumstances. Because for a while I couldn't exactly afford actual art supplies, so I had to make do with what I could find, and that mainly was in the dollar store or grocery store. Cheaper art supplies have definitely came a long way. So let me know down in the comments if you want this to be a separate video, or maybe I'll just have a full video dedicated towards cheap art supplies. Back then, when I wanted to practice painting, I would do it on the back of a cereal box. Since I couldn't exactly find a proper canvas back then at my dollar store because I couldn't really get to an actual art supply store. It's just my belief that if you're truly passionate about something, you won't let any limitations stop you from doing what you enjoy. If anything, working with cheaper supplies let me feel more experimental with my own artwork because I didn't feel like I was wasting anything expensive. So as a bit of a pro tip here, I would just find a super cheap sketchbook and go to town with it. Have it be your quote-unquote junk sketchbook where you can pretty much draw whatever you want without thinking about it being perfect. This is kind of what this sketchbook is, even though this one is watercolor paper. I only spent like $5 on this sketchbook. So I pretty much put all my random drawings in here currently. I remember giving this sketchbook a bit of a low rating on the first go around because my spine broke, but this particular book, I haven't had that issue. That said, I'm not quite halfway through this sketchbook, so maybe that'll be subject to change, but I still actually enjoy this paper. I low-key think some of this paper is actually better than the watercolor journal that I bought for like $20 a while back. But yeah, if you have a Five Below near you, I definitely recommend this watercolor sketchbook. I think you should pick it up. The paper doesn't really warp, although I do think that if you sketch with pencil, sometimes it can be hard to erase. But other than that, I think it's reasonably priced paper. And it handles both watercolor and gouache quite nicely. Because I noticed on some of my other more expensive paper, the two don't always get along so well. I didn't feel like I had to really drag the paint on when I switched over to my gouache. And layering was also pretty easy. I think for paints, I already mentioned this, but I'm using my Himi gouache along with my Shinhan professional watercolors. When I do gouache studies like this, I tend to use my Shinhans because they provide like a flat underlayer for my colors, so I can just layer the gouache on top. I don't really like using my Daniel Smiths here because they tend to granulate a bit more, and for whatever reason, when I layer gouache on top of it, it gets a bit muddy. Though, to be fair, that could be a me issue. Like I said, this particular gouache set is quite old, and I know the colors don't exactly pop like they used to. If I'm not mistaken, I'm pretty sure Himi Gouache has changed their formulation of their paints, and if that's the case, I definitely think I will get a newer set at some point. Because from what I've seen, the newer colors seem to look a lot more vibrant. And I also think they come in tube sets, which I think I would get over these cups because I think they're just messy and hard to deal with at times. Like, if I wanted to take this set outside to paint, it'd be too much of a hassle, and I definitely think I would spill something in my bag. These aren't exactly travel friendly, unfortunately. I think other than like the blue for the sky, I didn't really deal with too much streakiness. But like I said, I also did sort of have these paints sitting for quite a while, so I'm not sure if that had anything to do with it. I guess another pro tip here with these gouache in particular, I had a separate tube of white gouache. Here I did have to spend a little bit of extra money to get the Holbein white gouache, and that seemed to be pretty easy when it came to blending in this set. Because to be honest, the white in this particular set and this set comes with two different whites. Both of them seem kind of chalky. Again, it could just be me having these paints not properly wetted when I first started painting. But yeah, if you are going to use gouache like a lot, you will probably need to buy a separate tube of white paint because you go through it quite fast. And another general thing that I wasn't a huge fan of these paints is that I couldn't exactly find individual packets in art supply stores. I checked Michael's, I checked Hobby Lobby, I checked Joann's, I even checked Jerry's. But I think you can only purchase individuals on Amazon. So apart from the blue, the other colors seem to be layering on quite nicely. I especially like the greens in this set. I might actually make an individual review video on these paints because like I said, I don't have all the information regarding pigments and other light fast information. But more generally speaking, I do think gouache tend to be a bit less light fast compared to watercolors because of the components used to make the paint. So I would be mindful of that if you're going to hang up your paintings somewhere where there's going to be a lot of sunlight or light in general. Something you can do to test the light fastness of your paints is to do swatches on a sheet of paper and leave them in an area that gets a lot of light. In this particular drawing, I'm not too worried about that since these are going to be stuck in my sketchbook. I don't intend to take these out of here and place them anywhere, so I'm not too concerned with light fastness, but I figured it was something worth mentioning. Because creating art is definitely important, but if you are going to display it somewhere, that's also something to consider. There's also fixatives you could use to prevent that from happening, but again, I don't really want to get into that in this video. After all, I'm still a little bit rusty with gouache again myself, and there's still quite a lot about it I'm still learning. So maybe you'll see me paint more with gouache in the near future. I want to get back into doing more portraits with gouache, because I haven't done that in quite a while. Overall, I found doing landscapes a lot easier to do using gouache. That said, if there's any supplies that you want me to try, then let me know down in the comments. And that kind of just wraps up what I wanted to ramble about in this video. We covered a lot of ground, from AI art to the future of my channel to how I tend to use my supplies. And yeah, I think this video was quite constructive, even if it was a bit all over the place. I wanted these videos to be a place where I could talk about a bunch of different art topics, and yeah, I think if I do this series long enough, I'll become more confident with that. But until next time, goodbye and take care. Peace.